First off, before we talk about this week, let's talk about the regatta from this past weekend and your thoughts on the performance.
It was a big weekend and pretty historical. We had a little bit higher hopes for our novice, but we knew going into mostly Division I schools that it was going to be tough. In the novice 8, I think that we wanted to be faster, but we weren't surprised to go to the petite finals. The novice 4 was a little bit more disappointing. In the original draws, we were in a very good heat. One of the schools dropped out and they redrew, and we had 2 of the fastest 4s. They took first and second in the grand finals on Sunday, so that was a little harder to go to the petites because we definitely had enough speed to be in the grand finals, and that was obvious because we won the petite finals. They had a great race, and despite how hot it was, I think we were pretty pleased with the performances that the novice had. Preliminary heats on Saturdays that got us to the grand finals on Sunday. There was some great racing, and we fell shorter than our goals and expectations, and but there were some really good performances. The women's varsity 4, it's a second and a half. We've been battling against Western all season long. It's a great story. The coxswain for Western Washington is the sister who rose in the 4 at Humboldt State. So there's a lot of really good camaraderie between the teams, but they go out and they're very fierce competitors. It was good to see us get in front of UCSD, who had been dominating that event since we saw them at Cascade Sprints. 2B8 going into the grand finals, we really thought they had the ability to place. Nerves just really got the best of them. We went back and looked at their splits over the course of the 2,000 meter piece, and the first 500 was terrible. It took them about 500 meters to get their composure, and what you see in their split times is that their performance was dynamite. They went from a dead 5th place and just really battled all the way coming into the end, and had they had a really good first 500, I imagine they would have probably placed in the top 2. So the nice thing about 2B8 is they get to go out and they get to race Western again this weekend, and I think our goals and expectation are not any less than they were when we went to Juarez. The lightweight 4, Stanford last year, we beat Stanford pretty handily last year, and their 8 went on to win the national championship, and their 4 fell a little bit short. And this year, definitely, that was their one goal. They needed to qualify to get to lightweight nationals, and they did so pretty convincingly. And we'll row that complement of ladies again this weekend against Western Washington. Their 4 that they row in the open category is their lightweight 4, so we'll be racing them twice, just in different categories. And then, of course, the varsity 8. I probably would have said going into this weekend, where we had finished in front of UCSD probably gave us about an 85% chance of going to nationals in the at-large 8, and that pretty much evaporated this weekend. The stunning success of UCSD, they beat Western on Saturday by 1 second. It was quite a controversy because coxswain was not carrying her weight. There's minimum weight. She didn't have it. The judge referees disqualified her. The Board of Stewards reinstituted them because she had really tried her hardest to rectify the situation on Saturday. So those results will stand. They were 1 second off of each other. Going into the grand finals, a little bit tougher for UCSD. They were out in lane 7. We were in the middle of the pack, and we led for the first 1,000. It was a tremendous first 1,000, but it's that same problem that we've run into for the last couple of weeks, is we just don't have enough reserves in the tanks to stay with the pack when it comes to the end. And so Saturday's racing, we didn't race in the heats with UCSD or Western Washington, and then on Sunday what we saw was that we actually raced better on Sunday. There was a headwind. Everybody got slower, but our margin of getting slower was not as great as it was with the other crews. So that gives me at least some hope that you have one more shot this weekend. If you beat Western, you go to nationals. If they beat us, they go to nationals. It's pretty clear. So the kids understand the pressure that they're under heading into this weekend. Of course, our goal is to go out and win the regional championships. We did it last year. We tied with Western. We beat them by the sheer fact that we beat them in the 8. I think that anything is possible, and we're certainly racing with that type of enthusiasm and passion as we head up for that really long 13-hour drive to Everett, Washington.
So just to be clear, obviously you want to do well at this regatta, but the only shot you guys have going a return trip to nationals if you do beat Western.
That's correct. With UCSD sitting in front of us, that time will stand. Of course, UCSD heads to Philadelphia for the Dadvale Regatta. They'll go on May 9th, and one of the things that will do for us, as the selection committee for nationals, is that they will race every school but University of Central Oklahoma. They'll race Mercyhurst and Philadelphia University. They'll race Berry. They'll race Nova. And there's been some really interesting flip-flops back and forth between Berry and Nova. Berry has had that fast 8 that's been on average 10 seconds ahead. They raced the Sunshine State Championships this past Friday, 1.5 seconds between Berry and Nova in the 8. Nova beats Berry in the 4 by 1.5 seconds. So it makes the selection, obviously coming out of the South a little bit more difficult. We probably speculate that there'll be a lot of schools coming out of the South region this year. But UCSD definitely put themselves in the hunt this weekend by beating Western, and Western turning around beating them by the same margin, I think 1 second. And so it's exciting. The grand finals on Sunday were just remarkable. 6 schools coming down the course, pretty much bow ball to bow ball all the way until about 250 meters to go. And that's where you really see 2 schools kick out in front. That was both Western and UCSD. Santa Barbara, they've had new coaching staff, fully funded program, really good support. Their team is big. We think our team is big, their team is bigger. And they've just done phenomenal things this year. So it should be exciting weekend. There's a few things that we'll battle this weekend. First is that bus ride. And the second is that the biggest ranking events are the first 2 events in the morning, and you're talking at 7:30 in the morning. And it just makes it really hard. I think, it's a lot different when you look at Sacramento and you're racing at 10:30 in the morning. You've had an opportunity to get some sleep, get something to eat. Here, you're just basically, unless you're getting up at 4:30 in the morning, you're generally rolling out of bed into the bus, driving that 30 minutes to the race course, and it's cold. I mean, you would think that for the number of days we do it at practice, it would make us prepared, but it's a huge battle.
Yeah, is it kind of, I guess, fitting in a way that, you guys have built a pretty good rivalry with, Western and with the success that you've had as that they've had, but a team that, you got to, be ahead of that, team this week and they go to nationals, kind of fitting in a way just that you guys are so familiar with one another?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to take your hat off to Colin Truex in his first year at UCSD. We beat them pretty handily at San Diego, and I think the difference between us and them is that they've had 3 weeks. Their last regatta was Crew Classic, and we've taken some pretty big trips this year. We've only had 1 weekend off since San Diego, and we raced the weekend before up in Tacoma, Washington. So it's just been going from, Arcata, Tacoma, San Diego, Eugene, and then you have a weekend off. And I think for us that the compression of the racing season at the end of the year has just been that inverse power curve that we've been talking about all season long. And so as much as you'd like that to be different, that is the reality of a schedule like that.
In the Varsity 8 last week, you said all season long health has been an issue. Getting them healthy, is this a point where everybody will be healthy this weekend, or is it still once again kind of just, filling the boat with bodies?
It's been challenging because I think about how tired I am. They have to be crawling on their hands and knees at this point. You can see it, it's wearing. And there's not much you can do once you set the course of what your racing season is. So we've done the best that we can. I think everybody was surprised about UCSD. And the one thing that I do really love about coaching in the West region is that while we are all fierce competitors with each other, we can easily call each other and ask for guidance and help on what our rigging is, how could we make something faster, and we've been doing that for each other all season long. So, I just can't think of a better place that I'd like to be coaching, just because of the support that I get from my other coaches in the West. And you know what we saw at the end of the regatta on Sunday, of course, is that you know everybody's gotten their banners and their trophies and their medals, and you know they're all taking their individual team pictures on the beach. And my favorite picture is, of course, there's Western's 4 and Humboldt's 4 every other rower, and they're there. They're comrades. They've been racing. Some of them have been racing against each other for 4 years, and for me, that's I think the best character about why I love this sport so much.
Good stuff. Well, hopefully you guys do well and make a return trip.